In the shop this week, a customer brought in this beautiful Remington Model 81. Um, just a gorgeous gun. These were made between 1936 and 1950. It followed the Remington Model 8, which was, a John Browning design. And this was America's first semi-auto rifle. This is pretty cool. Some of the cool patents on it, some of the cool design features. But he said it's not working. The customer said he's fired it. He says it won't work as a semi-auto. So let's take this apart, look at some of the cool features, and we'll see what's wrong with it. Let's take a look at this. This design, it's a John Browning design, and it looks a lot like the Auto 5, if you're familiar with the shotgun, that big hump in the back. The Model 8 was the original Remington semi-auto, and this is a Model 81. And I think the only real differences were some changes to the stock and the fore end from the 8 to the 81. Everything else is pretty much the same. This is the first, like I said, the first American semi-auto. The safety, which I don't know, reminds me of an AK-47, where you're stopping that bolt from coming back with the safety on. And we pull this knob was a John Browning patent. No other action could be opened with that side knob because he held the patent on that. And I guess it really screwed with Winchester coming out with their semi-auto. But we notice it's not locking open with an empty magazine. We can look, hey, it's empty, but that bolt should be locking open. It's not. So we know right away that the magazine indicator is either broken or missing, because that bolt should lock open. Manually, we can push up on this little button here. That'll lock the bolt open now. So we do have an open bolt, and we can look in there. And once we look in there, we can see, hey, wait a minute, that's the bottom of the magazine. So we are not only have a broken magazine indicator, we're missing a magazine follower and a magazine spring. So those are going to be some parts that we're going to have to find and fit to this gun if we want to ever get this thing working. But all right, so we got a broken or missing magazine indicator. We've got a missing magazine follower, magazine spring. Let's see what else is missing.
Well, we know we don't have a follower or a magazine spring in this, so let's try to single shoot it. I'm going to single load it, and I should have a rifle that works and automatically ejects. So we're just going to drop a round down into the chamber, let that bolt close. All right, we have that big giant safety. Let's go ahead and drop the safety and fire this weapon. Well, fired. We got a positive ejection. Action cycled. So I think the only thing we're missing is that magazine spring and follower. So I think we've got a functioning weapon. Well, let's try this one more time. All right, so we know it worked. Just going to try a second time with this. If we pull this bolt all the way back, we got a bolt stop here. We'll push that up. We're just going to drop a round down into it. And then with this button on the left side, I'll just drop that bolt. There we go. Bolt functioned, dropped like it's supposed to. And once again, we got a positive ejection. The gun fired. Just nothing, the action doesn't stop open because we're just lacking that magazine follower. All right, I call this a win. The genius of John Browning.
All right. This particular gun is chambered in 35 Remington. And I actually have a box of 35 Remingtons hanging around the shop here. And this is a thumper, all right? It's a big fat, these are a 200 grain bullet, a lot of exposed lead. This thing is a thumper. It's a big brush gun. You see these a lot, that 35 Remington in that Marlin 336. You'll find those in 35 Remington quite a bit. But this is a 35 Remington. These Remington 81s came in 30, 32, 35 Remington. They also came in that 300 Savage. So you got quite a variety of calibers, but I think that 35 Remington is probably the most popular. And those were, like I said, that is just a great round. Like I said, that 200 grain bullet and 35 caliber. This would make a nice deer gun. It's not at all, fitted for sights or optics or anything like that. You got your open sights, but that 35 Remington would be a great deer gun. Let's take this apart. And if you watched my video on the Marlin 39, you saw that I modified this screwdriver. It has the profile of a nickel. I shaped it in the thickness of a nickel, and that fits a lot of these screws like this, like in that Marlin where we had the thumb screw. But these screws were designed for a coin, so that's why this fits so well. So we'll undo this forend using that screwdriver shaped like a nickel. Now this is what kind of neat. As you see, this comes apart. This forend comes off, and hidden in there's that little hole, that little recess there in the forend is this lever. All right, and this lever we can give this a turn, break it free. And this is just going to rotate or unscrew. And once we get this kind of loosened up, we can unscrew it a little bit quicker. Let's get this unscrewed. I'm off camera. Here, let me adjust the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Hey, there I am. Hi. But we can unscrew this lever, and that's captured, so it's not going to come completely out. But once that is, we can remove the barrel. Holy smoke! Look at that. The barrel came right off the gun. That's going to give us a good look at what have we got going on here with our receiver. Now we can play with this barrel separately. We can look down the bore. Ooh, look at that. Hey, nice clean bore. We'll take a look at that barrel too. But that's kind of neat. A little hole there where that handle went in, kind of hidden, but a nice quick takedown. All right, let's take a look at some of these screws here. As you can see, this gun had some very, very dirty screw heads. So what I did is I put a little bit of a penetrating oil on the screw head itself, let it kind of soak into that screw slot, and then I just took a dental pick and I cleaned that that slot out. You want to have a clean screw slot before you're able to fit your screwdriver tip in there. You want to be able to get to the bottom of the slot. You want to have that screwdriver seated deeply in there so you don't bugger up that screw head. You've probably seen that screw head. It has that hourglass looking slot because somebody had the wrong size screwdriver or didn't clean the screwdriver head out. With that penetrating oil, it's going to penetrate the dirt and the grease and let this stuff kind of get picked out. But it's also going to lubricate that screw head just a little bit. So with that metal pick, I'm not really scratching the metal. I'm just kind of gliding over it and able to push the dirt out of that slot. So I got these all cleaned up. So now we can take this stock out and let's fit the appropriate sized screw driver tip for that screw, and that's how you tell we've got the right size screwdriver blade. It's like made specifically for that screw head. That's how you tell we got a good fit. All right, this screw has, there we go. It's not that bad. But now that I got it cleaned out, I got the nice deep purchase there with that screwdriver tip inside the screw head. And we can back this screw out. This is a machine thread screw. You can tell by all that turning, it didn't really come out very far. So it's a machine head. It's going to connect to that tang on the other side. To get this stock off, I'm going to use one of my favorite hammers, a big rubber mallet. Just kind of give this a tap. There we go. Break that free, and there we are. All right. So what I'm doing here is I have a very small spanner wrench. This is probably too small for this job, but it's awful close. So I'm going to unscrew this barrel nut with this little tiny spanner wrench that's probably too small for the job. And what this is, there's a hole on this collar, and the spanner wrench just fits into that hole. We're just going to crank this off of there. This barrel should be able to remove from the back end. There we go. Oh, look at that beauty. All right, we got a little bit of, I don't know what we got going on here. Ooh, that's a really rough, yucky rust. All right, this is gonna have to be cleaned up. This is, the inside of this gun, it looks a lot worse than the outside. Oh my goodness. All right, so now, this is all, there's a big giant spring in here. You know, with that Browning Auto 5, this kind of looks like a Browning Auto 5, you have that giant recoil spring around the magazine. Well, with the rifle, there is no tubular magazine, so that big giant recoil spring is inside this big sleeve here. So we're going to relieve this. I've got this little spanner here. We're just going to uncrank this. This is, now we've got some spring pressure here. This is going to be a little, you got to watch your eyes and watch, you don't want to break anything when this thing comes out. You hear that spring? There it is. All right, scared the crap out of me. All right, so now we've got this. What is this recoil? It's like a buffer. All right, make sure we get the right order when we put this all back together. This right sequence. This needs to be cleaned up. This big giant spring. Whoa, look at that. All righty. What else we got in here? Is that it? Okay. Oh, look at that. All right, that's going to be the base where that spring's going to sit into. All right. This is my first time having this gun apart, so I'm learning a lot, getting dirty a lot. So, first time having this gun apart, let me reach in front of the camera. This has been a huge help. The Gun Digest Book of Firearms Assembly and Disassembly. There is a whole sequence on the Remington Model 8, how to take that apart. And there is very, very little difference in the Model 8 and the 81. So if you're getting into a gun you don't know, get to know. All right, get a book, learn. You're gonna need a special tool like this little spanner. And this thing was helpful also. But with this, taking off this just big recoil spring nut, any piece of metal, would have been able to fit in here and be able to turn that. But I just happen to have the right tool. Yeah, I got lucky. All right, these parts need to be cleaned up. We'll get them all put back together. All right, we've got our barrel components cleaned and lubricated, and put these all back together. This big giant mega monster spring that we can't even squeeze it. That goes in first. We're gonna have the spring cup gonna go in next, followed by the spring. These have all been cleaned and oiled. Now it's gonna be the trick is to get this spring to compress so I can get this retainer back in there. All right, I just got that spring and the barrel and everything back together, and let me tell you, you need a spanner wrench. That spring stuck me in the thumb a bunch of times. It was very hard to compress. There's that keyway and the barrel. Don't take this thing apart if you don't have to. Don't be just curious and want to see what's inside. It's not worth it. This was a bitch to get this thing back together. That spring stabbed me, but I was able to get it all back in. It's not impossible, don't get me wrong, but it was a lot of work, and work I probably didn't need to do. But we got the barrel component all put back together. Alrighty, major accomplishment there. Let's look at taking this receiver down. It's going to be a little different because we know there's no follower and there's no magazine spring. So it's not going to, yours will be different. Let's see. What do you want to do here first? Let's take this. Look at that pretty screw. Let's take this rear screw out. All right, and that's gonna. Then there's that pin, and we'll drop that trigger group. There we go. All right, that goes from one side of the receiver to the other. Now let's drift this pin out. There we go, that pin. Now this whole trigger group should just come right out to the side. There we go. Whoa. But we're dropping all our parts here. All right, gotta remember the orientation of all these. All right. So this is that what drops that bolt when the barrel's in, this pushes up, that releases that whole bolt assembly. All right, so we'll take that out. Now, to remove this bolt, there's a release here. Now, normally, your bolt is going to catch. Let's see, how can we do this? All right, take this bolt handle out. Let my thumb first. There we go. And this whole. Now that bolt should come right out the front. And there's our bolt. Bolt carrier, everything. A dirty bolt. Here's where we are. I went and put it all back together. I can't fix it. I can't find the parts to replace. I looked all over Jack First, Numeric, Midway, Brownells, eBay, and I just cannot find the parts to get this gun working like it should. We know it fires, we know the action cycles, all that, but there are other projects I need to get to, I need to take care of. This gun's gonna be put on the shelf, and a year from now, if I ever do find those parts, it will get taken apart, put back together, and fixed. Until then, I've got a gun that looks really good. So I put it back together. This thing's gonna get put on the shelf, like I said, and I'll get to it someday. Hope that video was entertaining, maybe insightful, maybe informative. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.